Hello everyone, we are EstReal and our guest for now is Martin Leroch, our lecturer of economics. Hi.
Hi.
So, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
Nice. So, what can you tell us about ourselves, about EstReal, our startup? Why do you think you are it? First of all, let's start with this. As you know, we are a fintech startup, and let's discuss it.
So from an economic perspective, I think the idea of having an alternative market intermediary basically is quite interesting from several perspectives. To my understanding, that is basically what you are. So a market intermediary just brings together buyers and sellers of stuff, right? So they're not contacting each other directly, but via this intermediary. And in the prospect that you sent me, you basically outlined that we typically have market agents, real estate agents, and that they're heavily expensive. And therefore, getting around these expenses as an alternative way of intermediation sounds promising per se. There is sort of related to the economic side of it, an economics about whether intermediaries are good or bad. So it's not an either or thing typically, but you have advantages and disadvantages. So if you think of supermarkets, for instance, also market intermediaries, because they typically don't own that stuff, or not necessarily, meaning they're only matching supply and demand. And in the supermarket, the advantage that they bring to the market is that you have a huge amount of supplies and only one place to go to. Right, this is their big advantage. So that would be one potential advantage of market intermediaries. There's also a counter effect of intermediaries that they simply cut in a margin on the side of the supply and the demand, making it more expensive for both sides, which then obviously is detrimental from a societal perspective. Not necessarily super detrimental, but it's, it drives a gap between supply and demand prices in that sense. And that is basically the thing that you're addressing, related to the real estate market per se, particularly in the second negative domain, if you want to call it that way, of market intermediation. There's actually quite interesting empirical research showing that real estate agents basically exploit information asymmetries that they have, meaning that they know more about the market than the other person does. And particularly, they also know that they somehow work differently than their customer thinks they would do. And what this research basically showed is that when real estate agents sell their own houses, they keep the houses longer on the market and thereby achieve higher prices. And the reason is, keeping a house longer on the market is more effort for me. It takes more time until I get my cash, which is bad news for me as an agent. So therefore, I rather have it sold a bit earlier and thereby forego a bit more of my bonus potentially. So it's this marginal cost, marginal benefit argument, which you hopefully recall from microeconomics. Yeah. Of course you do.
You choose concentration of economics.
Yeah, I choose concentration.
Can you tell us
why? Because first of all, I wanted to so bad before became a student, because I'm coming from a family of economists.
Okay.
My aunt is economist, same as my uncle, and my uncle is PhD in King's University in Great Britain. And so I just raised to watch them, and they are my kind of echelon. And so this is the reason why I'm here, a student of concentration of micro and macroeconomics, and a student of yours.
Okay, sounds like I can teach you very little, actually, if you know everything from your aunt and uncle.
Yeah, it sounds interesting. So, Professor Martin, we're interested, as you're a professional in your field as economist. We're interested in, can you share us experiences about about economies and investments? What kind of investments are there, and which one would you prefer, and why?
Like investments in general?
In general, yeah.
Saving.
Investment paths and fields.
Okay.
Let's discuss investment directly.
Okay, so we have a very standard way of just storing money in your bank account, thereby hoping that you get some returns. We have then the share market. We have the I'm not sure about the English term at the moment, but where you get the revenue basically in terms of interest, and you hand out something like a credit to firms.
Bonds or
bonds, yeah, that's it. So bonds, depending on government bonds or firms bonds, doesn't matter for the moment, but that's a form of investment, and obviously real estate would be a form of investment. Practically that's sort of the bigger picture that I would draw there. And whether or not I prefer it, I think it's always a type of preference thing, right? So what kind of security do you prefer? How desperate are you in need of cash in the next couple of years? Exactly. So risk aversion is one thing, or risk preferences in general. And then plus additionally, as argued, if you know that this is a part of your wealth that you could possibly have to rely on within the next year or so, you will probably also choose a different strategy regarding investment.
So we wonder what is safe investment path from your point of view. In Georgia, basically, we can say that real estate investment is very popular, but it's not that flexible for people. For example, immigration rate increases, and immigrants from Georgia in foreign countries are working hard to raise their treasure and then buy real estate and rent it the rest of their lives. So the percentage is kind of 33% of our population are immigrants because of it, and they are buying real estate, for example, for real estate, and then coming back in their country. And we wonder, from your point of view, the popular investment path in Germany and also in your society and your relations, what is popular in investment path?
So I think Germany is more or less notorious for low share of investments in shares. That is, we keep abstaining from investing in shares. Or
same for here in Georgia.
Okay.
So stock market
it's not really dead in Germany. So it is. Yeah. It has been piling up over the past year. So but still, I think
I think it's dead in Georgia, right?
yeah, because in the last 3 months there is one transaction. In market.
Okay.
And I think
Germany has a bit more than one. So, but nevertheless, I mean, compared to the United States or other Anglo-Saxon countries, I think Germany is still sort of way below that for whatever reason. Maybe it is a risk preference thing. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's just.
I think in Georgia it's awareness. People don't know about it, and they think it's not reliable, and they don't have. Based background about this topic, and they prefer more risk-averse ways such as banking and depository ways to invest.
I would argue the same holds true for Germany. Maybe the numbers differ, but it's the general trend should be that. I think a big investment chunk in Germany is also in the private home. That is my suspicion. I'm not an expert in that, but I would suspect that is a big part of it.
So we can say that the population of in our country, Georgian population and German population are thinking that safe investment is real estate, right?
Yes, and if you think of it in the way you're investing in your private home, if that's what you mean, then I would agree.
Yeah, so it comes to another question about real estate, and we're interested if you have got any experience in investing in real estate.
Not beyond my own house.
No.
More widely investment, not just about real estate. Do you have some experience?
Well, I do have some investments. I mean, I'm not the big investor, that's for sure. But nevertheless, I do have some shares. I just bought my first house in my life. So that's thank you. And that was a heavy investment. So that's where most of my money flows to. So that's
So what's your point of view? Are you planning
what am I planning?
Planning to invest in?
Well, for the moment, I keep paying back the credit to the bank. That's my major incentive to do, and it also will pay off in the sense that as the sooner I pay it back, the more money I will have available then later on. So, which is practically avoiding interest.
Let's discuss the disadvantages and problems related to real estate investment.
Mm-hmm.
What are aspects of crucial part of this investment? For example, what can you tell us first?
Big benefits, why people do that.
Okay, so I mean, so in general, I would say that real estate investment. I mean, for an economist as myself, you start thinking about 2007, which basically was the big bust for the entire global economy, practically. Which started all off with the real estate crisis, let's call it this way, euphemistically, in the United States, meaning that sort of we are typically aware of the fact that real estate markets can have large fluctuations, although over the past, 15 years or so, there has been a pretty steady growth path, which was, according to my reading, particularly pronounced due to the central bank's low interest rates. So I think that was one of the main drivers of the growth in the real estate market over the past 15 years. At least it was a big contributor to that. We then also saw upcoming of major investment firms, also in Germany, in larger cities. That is something that was not extremely new, but it was relatively new, I think, in Germany. So we saw that happening in cities like London. We saw that seeing in American cities where big investors were just buying up housing just in order to make the revenue. That is relatively new, once again, in Germany. And I think the upcoming of that was also partly at least induced by these interest rates from the central banks. And now, since interest rates are increasing, we see the first repercussions in Germany to the housing market, where all of a sudden there's a stop of new housing constructions. So we see a huge volatility. That's basically the bottom line of it. So there is some risk involved in that, particularly if you see it as an investment, and particularly if you don't have the long-term horizon as your perspective. So that would be one of the potential disadvantages that I see. From a societal perspective, again, looking at different kinds of investments that you might find. So if you think of these financial investors or people who just want to buy several homes as luxury goods or so, we then have different kinds of problems, less so in Germany. But for instance, in Austria, what we see in some regions is that the entire cities start dying out because nobody's living in these houses. Mm-hmm. They just buy it because they want to stay for a week or two in wintertime to go skiing or so. And then over the rest of the year, it just plays idle. But that relates only to the private homes. Obviously, it only relates to these luxury things. But that's also, from a societal perspective, one thing that is possibly worth mentioning. I'm not sure whether this is relevant for Georgia or for other markets like Germany.
Let's concentrate for now about Georgia, region of Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think on this way? What kind of potential does it have? And what do you think about Georgian market? Not only real estate market, widely discussion would be great.
Mm-hmm. So in general, I think Georgia is insofar promising as it's getting closer and closer involved with the European Union. Yeah. I think the European Union has a huge market, which is advantageous both as export and import markets. Particularly in Germany, we see that many Georgians find employment there under horrible conditions, by the way, but nevertheless, apparently it is more attractive than staying here. Mm-hmm. So there seems to be some improvement in that regard.
We have some friends.
Hopefully no truck drivers.
No, some of them are working in restaurants.
Okay.
Maybe. And they choose to go in summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the whole summer.
They're working a lot in Germany. So I can say that kind of from 100 to 200,000 students are going in every summer in Germany to work, for example, in McDonald's or in restaurants and so on, or in factories, chocolate factories, and also my brother has experience of it in a couple of times, working in the McDonald's, for example, in Berlin. I think McDonald's, and they're working hard, and they are paying some
They're
payments.
paying way better.
Yeah, but they are paying some payments of rent a lot. Basically, in Berlin, it's high prices, right? And also for ride, for flight, and so on, and also for agents. And I think it's crucial, but kind of has a great advantages for students, so that they can pay for their education, for example, for rent in Tbilisi or here in dormitories also. But hopefully, from my point of view, would be great to work in your country. For example, I've never been in German or foreign countries to work and collect money to pay some payment of education, some rent. I have almost 6 years of experience working at service part. For example, at restaurants as a cook, at hotels as administration, and so on. I always was thinking that would be great to work in my country, because so for example, I'll give into businesses, for example, labor. So I'll give them more number of labor, for example, about GDP. It is great for GDP for overall economy of Georgia. And so if there's a tax to pay, I rather choose to pay tax for Georgia, not for Germany, or stuff like this. What do you think about this concept? So
where do you pay your taxes?
I think it's kind of sad that people in our age willing to go abroad and to make some money to pay their education, because it means that our country can't provide such works and jobs. And I don't think what factor does it engage? It is economical, or it would be great that government paid more attention about.
Yeah, but what should the government do? I mean, that's the core of the problem. Should the government provide the jobs or not? Because it's, I mean, from an economical perspective now, at least in theory, what would happen now, or what is happening, is that you're creating a shortage on the labor market because so much labor is moving abroad to find jobs. That's the first thing. So you're creating.
The government should give the various options to businesses at first, and business could increase overall level of the company or organization structure or managerial structure or labor related concepts. People will choose the path of Georgian company. For example, I will choose, rather than foreign companies, Georgian company to work there, if there will be great salary, great structure of organization, and so on.
But it doesn't have to be an either or. So the thing could be, well, the government could assist.
I think problem is that we have inflation going, and low wages is staying fixed.
But that's again where economics would kick in. So the economic theory argument would be, okay, you're creating a shortage of labor because a lot of people move abroad and choose to work there, which means labor is getting scarce and scarcer here, which means eventually the wages will have to rise. So maybe we're not yet there where we truly have a scarcity of labor. That might be, I don't know. But that's sort of the idea. Plus, the second thing that happens typically is that if people are abroad only for work, they do send remittances back home. That means just money back home to their family or so, which increases the ability to spend money here as well, which makes opening up a business more attractive because okay, people now get a bit more money, so therefore you can open up your business. That's the economic side of that, and then eventually you would then hopefully see that people start moving back. You see similar effects like that, for instance, in Poland. So right after the fall of the Iron Curtain and after the European or the expansion of the European Union, you saw a huge influx of Polish workers on the German labor market and eventually then also on the British labor market. And this practically meant exactly these two effects, which I just tried to explain. That first of all, there was a shortage in the labor market, increasingly so in Poland, which meant an increase, a rise in the wages. Eventually, this doesn't happen overnight, but eventually, and now the Polish labor market becomes more and more attractive. This doesn't mean that no Polish people are working outside of Poland. They are. Particularly so in Great Britain. So I don't know whether you read the news about how this was one of the factors that got triggered a bit in this Brexit debate when the people were discussing, we don't want the Polish workers stealing our jobs. That was part of the story surrounding Brexit. But that's exactly this economics perspective on that. Sort of there will be a rise in the living standards due to, first of all, shortage of labor, plus money coming in the form of remittances. Whether this filters through, what the time span is, that heavily depends on the individual cases. And it doesn't mean that the government couldn't do other things as well. So it's not an either or. Obviously, the easier it is to open up business, to start employing people, the more people will choose to do that, right? The less cost associated with that. True.
So you mentioned about money flow from foreign countries. For example, let's take Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
It is great,
Mm-hmm.
right? But this flow money is not spending on to increase our level of production
Mm-hmm.
in the country. And that's what I'm talking about and paying attention on it. It would be great to spend this money to increase our level of production. Then will comes more interesting potential labor for businesses,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there will be more satisfaction of Georgian people.
What was it spent on the money then? The money on what is it spent? If the money that comes in from the people working abroad, if it's not being spent on increasing the
government's pocket or something like that.
No, I mean seriously. I mean you have, I don't know, say maybe not in your specific case, but some uncle now is a truck driver in Germany, and he sends back money. Does that end up in the pockets of the government? How so?
So people are spending this money, yes, but for example, the big amount of money has big amount of tax rate, right? 20% of big amount of money is good, and this money is not going in to increase our level of production, to increase the services, for example, governmental services and so on. And people are not satisfied of standard of living in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I know a lot of people that are going abroad because they are not satisfied to live in Georgia. Or also, I know Armenian people and so many different race people that don't want to live in their own country, right?
But why not? What's the key problem there?
Because there is no various options to, for example, there are no career options that they want. For example, people want to be an actor, and there is no options. For example, in Georgia, and they are going in foreign countries, for example, in United States
Mm-hmm.
and EU also. And this is the reason, basically, because on given career options are not increasable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people can be satisfied within country.
Mm-hmm.
From my point of view, to get educated is good. To go abroad,
Mm-hmm.
because of this reason, but to work hard, there to feed your family is not, it's government's fault. I can say that.
I don't know about that, so I'm no expert in Georgian politics. But the one thing is sort of yes, you might disagree with the amount of salaries, or the number of people employed in the government sector. There might be inefficient usage of the money, but on the other hand, you have to see that the government also does a lot of things which are quite crucial for the living standards within a country. It provides all the infrastructure. It provides finance for things like this university. So you're also benefiting from that. And obviously a government would need resources for that. So taxing in general, I think, is somewhat reasonable, right? Again, it depends on the amount of taxation. It depends on the usage of the money. But in general, I think obviously the government needs some resources in order to finance it. And secondly, my initial question was, if the truck driver sends home the money, where does taxation come into play there? Nowhere. It's my private money that I earned. I already taxed it. And the net amount, or part of the net amount, is the stuff that I send back home to my family. So my family can spend it over here. That's the amount of money that I'm talking about. And that's money which will be consumed here. It might not be invested, but it's at least consumed. And if it's consumed, it ends in the pockets of some store owners. And the store owner then figures, okay, maybe it's worthwhile, for instance, just staying here because the people all of a sudden have sufficient amounts of money to buy my stuff, right? This is not the end of the story. That's not what I'm saying. So, but it is a small path which should, according to theory, be beneficial for some people.
Yeah. Absolutely. No. So, what can you tell us about low parts of ownership of real estate?
Of law parts?
Low parts, yeah.
I don't know too much about that, to be honest. So
or regulations of investment ecosystem also.
What kind of experiences have you had with your home buying in terms of the law side?
In terms of the law side, it was heavily complicated. That's what I can say. No, there's so what I found. Maybe this is a particular German thing. I'm not sure, but it's sort of you get this contract and you have to go to a notary, and then a notary reads out the contract to both parties. He then takes quite a bunch of money for doing that. I mean, it's regulated. The amount that you have to pay is regulated, so it's nothing that he can decide upon. But nevertheless, the entire procedure is possibly a bit artificially costly. I'm not sure whether this is an accurate way of describing it. But my being affected of it, I had the impression of, do we really need this? I mean, we all read the contract. I know that maybe some people can't read. I don't know, but maybe have it optional or so. Plus, then once owning a house, I'm still in the process of finding out what I'm actually obliged to do. So in Germany, some things you have to do as a property owner. So for instance, you're obliged to have a contract with the disposal agencies, the local ones, so that your trash will get picked up and so on. They will make you aware of that. That's not the issue. But other things are, you have to take care of the sidewalk in front of your house. And if something happens on the road, you will be participating in the costs and so on. That's all the stuff that is coming on. So it's a very, according to my perception, a very heavily regulated market in Germany, which comes with a lot of legal obligations.
So, what can you tell us about your experience in Kutaisi International University and your experience with our students?
In general, or related to real estate?
No, in general.
In general. So the attendance rate in lectures is pretty low. That's what I can say.
The number of economic concentration is pretty low of students. Number of students.
In the concentration, it might well be, but I was told it's at least 11 who chose the concentration, and I don't see 11 students in the lectures.
Yeah, it's same for other subjects as well in other concentrations.
So yeah, it's a general phenomenon, and I was asked for a general phenomenon.
In our universities, well known that students don't like lectures and doesn't attend. And I think main reason is that we also have labs or seminars, as you know, and it's like more engaging in a way that we. As they explain, we then write some about some topics, and I don't know. Lectures is about more informative and more informing about what the next chapter is about. And in seminars, they talk as well in Georgian. And it's more easy for students to understand.
Okay.
And would you add something?
So I'm always attending. Yesterday I really don't because of our podcast with Mutas Gwigwaya, lecturer of micro and macroeconomics for freshmen, and I think they are breaking something there. And to be honest, it was really interesting yesterday discussion with Mutas Gwigwaya. More like interview, but it was our first experience, and now on we are trying to discuss with our guests, same as you, and we wonder about your expectations of our startups value. And how do you think of result of our hard working of
and any advice?
Yeah,
any advice?
Any advice?
I think I'm the wrong person to ask for advice on this. So as indicated initially, I do think that the general idea of finding an alternative way of market intermediation is indeed promising. I haven't fully grasped the details of what it basically means to be an owner of 10% of a business house or business building or so. That's the issue that we were discussing previously, meaning that if you find some way around some kind of potential disagreements, I think it would be one thing. But I'm pretty sure you already found that. So, for instance, having those people who own a part of that property, that they sign into having some facility manager operate this thing, and whatever he or she does is going to be okay, or you have some other form of management of that thing, but that you have consent from those involved, that they will agree with that, whatever is happening, unless there's, I don't know, consensus amongst the share owners that this is nonsense or so. That might be one way, because the example that I gave is just think of something is broken or not in perfect shape any longer, and then person A says, or owner A says, well, we have to renew this. Person B says, well, but it's still operating, and person C says, well, I don't care. Then you have disagreements. So how do you deal with that?
So these concepts will be written in contracts in advance, that they have to sign it. So they don't have to touch to real estate. So thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Also, we are honored that you were our guest, and see you tomorrow
in the lecture.